Okay, thank you everyone for joining. We are going to get started. Today's session is on utilizing Microsoft Co-op incentives in Partner Center. So my name is Anna Stranagan. I'm Strategic Business Manager here at TD SYNNEX. I do see lots of faces that I recognize, some new names in there, but people know me for anything about Microsoft AI Cloud Partner Program and its benefits and incentives. So today I get to talk about one of the exciting topics about utilizing Microsoft Co-op dollars. So we're going to talk a little bit about how it works to make sure we are all on the same page. And then I've got some step-by-steps on the claiming process. And then I've got some easy activities and some tips to go over with everyone. Okay, so how co-op works? Well, if you're earning rebate, you're earning co-op. Okay, rebate is paid monthly, but co-op is accrued over 6 months. They're the Microsoft fiscal halves. After the 6 months, as a partner, you will fall into one of two scenarios. Okay, and so those scenarios are you're either under $10,000 of co-op earnings or over $10,000 of co-op earnings. So in the beginning, most likely you'll be in the under $10,000 of co-op. And what that means is every month you're earning incentives from Microsoft. Those incentives are split 60-40. 60% is rebate, 40% is co-op. If you're typically earning about $4,000 a month between rebate and co-op, then your total co-op earnings will be under the $10,000. And so just kind of giving you a little breakdown. If your earnings are under that $10,000, you're still earning co-op. It's just that the amount isn't enough for Microsoft to make you do their claiming process. And so what they'll do is they'll convert those co-op dollars into rebate and pay you out as rebate. And this happens twice a year. You'll typically see a large rebate payment in March or April, and then you'll wonder, why did I get these extra dollars? Probably it was co-op, okay? Now, if you're in this camp of the over $10,000 of co-op earnings, well, then that is a use it or lose it situation. And so today's session is super important for you because you do need to know how to use those co-op dollars. So if you're earning typically about $5,000 a month in incentives, then you would definitely be in the over 10K camp. And so those funds will be deposited twice a year. So you earn co-op 6 months corresponding to Microsoft fiscal half, and then you spend it the following 6 months. But when Microsoft does this deposit of your co-ops for you to spend, it'll happen twice a year on these dates. So February the 16th and August the 16th. Those are important days to know. You want to go in Partner Center on those days and check to see if you have your co-op dollars. If you do not have co-op dollars, it's probably because you were under the 10K threshold. If you have co-op dollars, again, you were over the 10K threshold. Now, there is a lot of incentives from Microsoft that earn rebate and co-op. I'm not going to go into those. That's what we did last week, but I just want to make sure that you have this chart of, the Azure incentives, the Microsoft 365, and the dynamic incentives. All of them earn rebate and co-op. And definitely when you're focused on selling those strategic accelerators, you're going to earn more rebate and more co-op. Key incentives, key guides, that you do need to be aware of. And this first, or the one on the third one on the very right, is the most important when it comes to the co-op funds. This is your Bible, your guidebook. It has all of the details about the co-op guide. The guidelines, rules that you need to know. What are the eligible activities? What are the requirements for those activities? And this guide is updated once a year, and that major update happens in July. There has been occasionally another update throughout the year, but it's rare. The update is really been that July, at the beginning of the new Microsoft fiscal halves. Now, you do still probably want to be aware of these other two files. They're important. That incentives guide tells you everything as far as which activities earn rebate and co-op. And that product addendum is that Excel file that tells you clearly which are the products that are eligible for incentives and which are the products that earned the accelerators. Okay, so in the incentives guide, there is a list of eligible activities. I've got a little screenshot here and I've organized them in which activities I think are easier activities here on the middle versus activities might be a little bit more complex here on the right. Now, one of the things you'll see is Microsoft, for all the eligible activities, they categorize it. So there's 3 categories. There's partner skilling, demand generation, and market development. Partner skilling is all the activities that are about enabling you as the reseller. And so there are internal type of activities. Demand generation are activities about driving awareness. So they're the typical marketing type of activities. And then there is market development, which is more of the middle of the funnel type of activities. Now, before I go into anything else, I'm going to just quickly bring up that guidebook, right? And so it is 65 pages. We are not going to go into all of that here today, but I do suggest that you go through them. And what I really want to point out is what we are going to go through today is a few of those key activities and the activity sheets for them. So this is like the most important thing that you do need to be aware of. And so when you click on any of these, and you'll see we're in the demand gen section, there is a 1-pager for all of these activities to give you all the detail that you would need in order to go and plan and execute and submit a claim for this activity. All right, so back to my slides. So the ones in purple I have in here are the ones that I'm going to be spending some time on today. So I obviously don't have enough time to go through all of them, but if there are some other activities in here that you are curious about, kind of put them in the chat, and maybe I can do another follow-up session where, you know, maybe there's like a part 2 and I go over some of those other activities. All right, so a couple other things to know is your activities must meet these 2 requirements. Anything that you do must include your company branding, right? So include your logo, your contact information. And the other thing is the content must be Microsoft focused. So it needs to be focused on Microsoft Cloud. Not anything else, and certainly not any other vendors. As long as you have Microsoft content in these activities, you'll be good. The other thing to know is Microsoft has what's called a low dollar threshold for activities. This is actually a pretty nice little thing, but be aware at the same time, because if you claim an activity and it is below the claim threshold, what will happen is you will not be triggered to provide POE, proof of execution, in the claim submission. It'll go straight through to submit it and then approved. That's a nice thing, except for if you do too many of these things, Microsoft, that'll be a red flag for them because they'll be wondering, where is the POE? Why are you doing so many low dollar activities? And any low dollar activity, Microsoft reserves the right to still ask you for POE. Even though when you submitted a claim, it didn't ask for POE, they can, up to 24 months, ask you to produce that POE. So if you do submit a claim and it doesn't ask for a POE, make sure you keep those documentations filed, easily accessible, because if they ask you for that information a year later, 18 months later, I know that that'll be a lot harder to dig up. Okay. And if you don't provide it, they can claw back from your future dollars or jeopardize the program in itself. I see there's a question here. What is that threshold, or does it vary by activity? Yeah, Melanie, that's a great question. It does vary by activity. And there's a little trick, so we'll kind of go through that in the screens, but you can play around with that number. And when you're submitting a claim, if you put $1,000 in and it says create and submit, that means that $1,000 is below the threshold. If you were to put $2,000 and now it says create claim, therefore you will be required to upload POE. Important timelines. So you earn co-op over 6 months, and then you get it the following 6 months to spend. So for example, the co-op earnings that you can spend today that are between July and December 31st, those were dollars that were earned back in January to June sales. So you earned these, accrued them over the January to June, then they were deposited into your partner portal. And then you do activities between July 1st to December 31st. And you submit claims after the activity has been completed. And you have until February the 15th to submit that last claim. Whatever is not submitted will be forfeited. Now, once you submit a claim, there's still a resolution period. And if you submit claims like February 14th, maybe you submitted quite a few, and the auditor still has questions about them, you still have another 45 days to kind of resolve those claims with the auditor. Maybe they need clarification, additional POE, whatever it is, but it'll be an additional 45 days. After this date is where the funds will be officially forfeited. So whatever was not used will be gone and not accessible to you. There is also the other thing I just want to note that pay attention to when you submit claims, and it's up to you to go in and check the portal, right? And make sure that, you know, if there's a flag in there and action required, the onus is on you. Microsoft's not going to send you a reminder email. If you don't, then they will be considered non-compliant, and then just the dollars will be forfeited. Okay. Other thing to know is payments. So your rebates are paid monthly, and you will receive your co-op after you do co-op claims. Co-op claim payments will never be on the same cycle as rebates. They'll always be issued separately. The other thing to know is once you claim your co-op claim, your activity, it's generally about 45 days later that you get paid. But the rule is if the claim is approved by the 15th of the month, then you'll be paid that month at the end of the month. If it is approved on the 16th, then it will be paid the following month. All right, so those are all the questions or all the slides I wanted to go through. I do see another question. Is there an easy way to look up what your co-op funds are? An easy way to look at what your co-op funds are. I've been having trouble finding exactly how much I've earned. Oh, okay, yes, we're going to go through how to see how much co-op you have. As far as how much you've been earning, I can send you the recording from last week. We covered that in that section. But today, that's the first thing you want to do is you want to go into Partner Center and you want to see how much co-op dollars you have. So you will go to Partner Center. From the home dashboard, you're going to go into the incentives workspace. You do need to have the incentives admin or incentive user role in order to see anything in here. So as long as you have those permissions, you're going to come in here. You're going to click on the Co-op Management, Program View, Microsoft Commerce Incentives, and then it's going to bring up another screen here. This screen will show you how much co-op dollars you have. And these are the co-op dollars that are use it or lose it. Now, you do need to play around with these filters a little bit. So you'll need to select the right location because you may be operating out of multiple locations. So you want to make sure that you're checking each location. The fund category will be the cloud solution provider. That is for CSP. Now you could be earning co-op across, Surface and Devices, the Hub. Those are separate buckets, but it is the same portal where you would see those dollars. And the usage period is always going to be the current usage period. So you do the option to kind of look back to see previous halves. Did you have money? How much money did you have? Did you utilize it all? So once you have kind of selected all of those, that is your number that you have available to spend. And if you've claimed anything against it, it'll show you up above what has been claimed so far. So now we're going to go through some actual activity examples and some screenshots. So the first activity I always tell partners to do, and it's an eligible activity, is claim reimbursement for your Microsoft Partner Benefits package. So this is a screenshot here straight from that co-op guidebook that I was showing you earlier of the 65 pages. And in here, it tells you what is required for your proof of execution. So you need is just the Microsoft invoice, and all of these are eligible. So whether you've purchased just the launch, the core, the expanded, the solutions partner, or maybe you've purchased all four, you can claim all the ones that you've purchased. Now, the date that you purchase it has to fall in that eligible usage period. So again, the current usage period we are in today is July 1st to December 31st. So if we were to go and claim this, so we'll give you some screenshots. The first thing you actually have to do is you have to get that invoice from Microsoft. And where you get that invoice, because that's your POE, you're going to get it from Partner Center. You're going to come into the membership section, click on bills and payments, and you'll see that membership active. Maybe again, you've got multiple. Here you will click on download invoice. When you download the invoice, it's going to take you to this screen here. Well, you will click on download and then download invoice. Once you've got that invoice will look something like this. This is just, this was an old invoice, right? So it's not legitimately allowed to be expensed. It's already past the date. But this is what it would look like. You'd see it's an official Microsoft invoice. There's an invoice number, and then there's the invoice date, and then the amount that you paid. So this invoice date is the date that there's the date you purchased it, and then there's the invoice date. The invoice date is usually like 1 or 2 days later. So now to go and submit that very first claim for that benefits package, you're going to come back to Partner Center and you're going to go to that incentives workspace. You're going to click on Co-op Management, Program View, and Microsoft Commerce Incentives again. You're going to make sure you select the correct location and make sure you click apply when you select the location. Otherwise, it won't actually take that change. And then you're going to see the amount of dollars you have, and you're going to click on create a claim. Once you create a claim, this screen will pop up. The first 4 line items here will have already been pre-selected because those were based on these filters up here. So you don't need to change Microsoft Commerce Incentives or the fund category, the location. And the usage period, you can only ever claim the current one anyway. But if by chance you needed to change that location number, you could do that. The drop downs will still give you a chance. From here, you're going to select the solution area for your fund. So solution area doesn't impact anything for you. This is more for Microsoft. They want to know what areas that your activities are focused on. And so these are the new Microsoft names. And so AI Workforce is basically O365, M365. AI Business Process is Dynamics and Power Platform. Security is any of the security products that fall under M365 and Azure. And then the last one here, Cloud and AI Platforms, is Azure. Surface is always here too, but you're not going to be using Surface for CSP funds. You guys are going to get this presentation deck and the recording, so I don't expect you guys to remember this because I still have a hard time, but those are the new solution areas for Microsoft. All right. Once you click on create a claim, you'll get this screen pop up in which you're going to select that activity. This drop down is all of the activities that are in that co-op guidebook, right? So there won't be, like, everything is in there. There won't be something that's not in there. All of those activities, again, have a one-pager to give you all the details that you would need. So we're going to select from here the partner skilling NPN participation. That was the activity that was for the benefits package. Then you are going to select the date. So it suggests that you use is the invoice date. That will be your start date and your end date. You will then select your currency, give it a name, put in the amount of your invoice, so amount after taxes, and then you will click on create a claim. Now, back to that low dollar threshold. So if I was to put in, say it was the launch package and was $349, if I was to put in $349, this would change to just submit a claim. And then it's not going to ask you for that Microsoft invoice, not going to ask you for any POE. But this amount is above that threshold. So it is create a claim, in which we'll now go into the section where you would upload all of the POE. So right here, you'll see that upload button. You will click on it and you will upload the files. Once you have uploaded the files, you will click on each file separately and do this individually. So you'll click on the file and then click on the edit button and it will pop up this screen here. You will then add the invoice number, select your currency, put the invoice date, and then click on the add button. When you add, it then asks you for the expense type. This expense type is also a drop-down that, again, corresponds to all of the eligible expenses listed in that activity guide. And so these do vary from activity to activity. So you'll see for this one, we can choose the fee annual enrollment. So we'll choose that one. And then you will put in the amount and then click save. If you had multiple expenses, not that this is a good example, but we will with other ones, you would just click on the add button and add more expenses. But for this one, it's straightforward. It's one invoice, solutions partner benefits. You've put in the invoice information, click save, and now you'll see here it's populated that information that you've put in. That's all that is required for this activity. There is an optional comment box here if you do need to communicate anything with the auditors. Otherwise, you would just click submit and you're done. I do see another question here. If you get the message you have no funds. Yes, if you have no funds, that means, yeah, you are not above the 10K threshold. Either that or you have multiple locations. So sometimes you need to go through each of the locations just to make sure that there are no funds in each location, depending on how many you have in Partner Center. Okay, so once your claim is submitted, you'll see here on that main screen, there's a status that says submitted. You'll also notice that if you were to create an activity, but maybe you didn't finish it, it'll auto save. So you can just back right out and it'll keep it here as a placeholder with the status of editing. So maybe you want to start a claim and then you realize you don't have all the information you needed. That's fine. You can just kind of go back. Once the claim is approved, you'll see the status here approved. If the auditors require more information, you'll have this status of action required. And if you have the action required, you'll need to click on this little radio button and then edit claim to go in. And when you go in, you'll see the note from the auditor, and then you can reply back in the comment section or do as they've asked you. Maybe that is upload additional information. I see another question. Do you only receive co-op funds at a certain period of time after you achieve your first partner designation? We too have no co-op funds, but only received. Yeah, so Adam, that's slightly, there's different eligibility ways of earning incentives. If you don't have any co-op dollars, in the way that we had walked through, then you're below the 10K threshold. And then again, what you want to do is you want to check all of your location numbers, and you want to do this twice a year, back to those dates that I mentioned, February the 16th and August the 16th. Those are the two key dates. Those are the dates that co-op funds get deposited. If they're not deposited, you are below the 10K threshold. Okay, so now I'm going to go through another activity. This one is a pretty good activity, and hopefully some of you guys have attended the Microsoft Ignite recently, and because that is an eligible activity, and that can be really expensive. So it's great that Microsoft allows that, because you can actually, you can claim up to 3 attendees, and Microsoft will cover the registration fee for Ignite, as well as the hotel and airfare for Ignite. They will not cover any food or any other expenses, just those 3 things. But that can be quite a bit of money, and it is capped at $5,000 per person. Again, maximum of 3 people. So these are the eligible expenses. Your proof of requirements. You are going to need a third-party invoice, as well as support documentation. So you need to provide like a copy of the conference invitation or registration showing confirmation that you attended, and this was an event that was hosted by Microsoft, because this is the key. This is only for Microsoft hosted events. It's not for other events, even though there could be an event where most of the content is Microsoft. Unless that event is hosted by Microsoft, it will not count. It will not be eligible. So your POE looks something like this, you know, your expense receipts, because that's what you need. You need is the invoices for your Ignite registration, the invoice for your flight and your hotel, and then you need that confirmation email from Microsoft with regards to your Ignite. And let me see, there's another question in here. Is there any activity that would be that would apply for the upcoming Microsoft Innovate. Ah, Melanie, I hope you're coming to our Microsoft Innovate. No, there is not. Microsoft Innovate is a TD SYNNEX hosted conference. There will be lots of Microsoft people there, but no, it does not cover, and we do cover hotel while you're staying. You just need to cover flight or train, whatever it is to get to the event. All right, so back to the claim for the Microsoft Ignite. So when you're claiming, you're going to create a claim. You'll do the same steps we said earlier, right? Click on that continue. This time for that partner activity, you're going to select that Microsoft hosted conference. Your start date and end date. That is the date that the Ignite conference took place. And so I've had this question a lot of time. Some people have bought their Ignite passes way back in August. You could not submit this claim until after that Ignite conference was over. All right, so the conference is over. So now you can claim it. You'll select that currency, give it a name, and then enter in the amount that you are claiming for, and then click on that create a claim. Up here, you're going to upload all of those invoices, right? So you've got your Ignite registration invoice, your hotel invoice, and your flight invoice. Once you've uploaded them, you will click on the little boxes here and then the edit button for each invoice. Once you do that, it'll populate this screen here. You'll enter the invoice number, the currency, the date of the invoice, and then you will click that add button. Once you click the add button, it'll show you here what is the eligible expenses. You'll pick the right one that is for your invoice that you're matching it to. Add in the amount that the invoice was for. Click that save button. And then you'll see now here, all of these invoices have been completed. The invoice number has been entered. The amount has been entered. So now that that invoice section is done, you've got this communication materials section. So you are going to upload all the materials. And in this case, it'll just be that confirmation email, like proof of Microsoft conference. You will upload that. And I do recommend as a best practice is that you, for the communication, any of the communication that you upload, click on the little box here in the edit and add some notes in here. It'll pop up another section for you to put comments. Make this easy for the auditors. Just a short little comment, just so that they understand what it is that they're looking at, because, you know, honestly, I'd hate to be in an auditor's job and have to look it through all of this documentation and, you know, figure out what it is for. At least if somebody can just kind of clearly articulate and just, you know, 2 to 3, 5 words, what it is, will go a long way and hopefully speed up the approval process for your claim. So once you've added those notes, and if you have any additional comments, you do not need to fill this in. This is more for back and forth later if needed. Just click that submit, and that's it. You're done. So now you've submitted a claim for the Microsoft hosted conference. Okay, so those were 2 examples of where their Microsoft activities eligible. They do require an invoice as part of the proof of execution, that POE. Now I want to go through a couple other examples. And these examples will not be using a third-party invoice or a Microsoft invoice, but you're going to be using is the certification statement and report section, known as the CSR. So that first activity, which is, again, I think a really good activity, an easy activity to do, and that is customer seminars. customer seminars can be virtual events or in-person event. It's anything as long as there is a speaking spot to it. Okay. And so in the proof of execution requirements, you'll see it says here third-party invoice or certification statement and report. It is one or the other. You would use the third-party invoice if you were contracting something out to an agency and they were doing everything from start to end. Maybe they were doing the whole thing for you. They send you an invoice and all you're doing is paying the invoice. That would be an example where you would use a third-party invoice. Otherwise, it's probably you who is doing organizing the activity. You have marketing on staff, or maybe there's that one person who wears the multiple hats. And in that case, you're going to use the certificate statement and report section, okay, the CSR. You need to do that as well as upload all of the communication requirements that are required, listed here as required. All of these things here are eligible expenses. So again, whether this is an in-person or a virtual event, you can claim signage, giveaways, agency fee, which is kind of your cost of organizing it. Maybe there were some extra registration fees or speaker fees, facility, catering. All of those things are eligible under that customer seminar. Now, one of the things I do kind of want to point out is if you're doing like virtual events, webinars, this you would use this. Another thing that I do like to promote is our Copilot Cloud Lab experience. That would count. That's like a virtual one-to-many demo of Copilot. That's basically a webinar. You could do tons of these with your customers and claim these as eligible marketing activities. Okay, so now what does that POE look like? I get asked that question a lot. And so I'm trying to put where I can some more visuals for you to see. But POE for that customer seminar would be a picture to start with, a picture, a digital, like an actual picture if it was an in-person, and if it was a virtual event, then it would just be a screenshot. So here's an example of a screenshot of a webinar that took place. You're going to just capture that whole screenshot that shows like any one of the slides going on, your speaker, and like people in the webinar. Next is you're going to have a copy of the invite or the agenda. Maybe you didn't have an actual email invite that went out, but you probably have like a registration page, and that registration page has the agenda. You could use that. I would also suggest maybe that there is a follow-up email, what we call here at TD SYNNEX, like a catch-all email. That catch-all email can also be used as part of that communication requirement. So that meets those two things. The next will be a copy of the actual presentation that you delivered. So PDF that, upload that. And then the last thing will be is the registration list or attendee list. That's all that's required for POE. Now, when you're going through in the tool, right? So you come into your co-op claims and you go again and create a claim. And I'm just choosing all of these solution areas. That marketing activity here in that pull down will be that market development customer seminars. The activity date will be the date that my webinar took place. So that was just a 1 hour thing. So it happened on December 1st. That will be the start date and the end date. Currency will be US, give it a name, and then put in the amount that you are submitting this claim for, and then go ahead and click create a claim. So now you see there's that third-party invoice section, and now you see this certification statement and report. You are going to ignore the third party. You're only going to do the certificate statement. You're going to click on that add button, and it's going to pop up this screen here. The first thing you're going to leave as a default to know, make sure the currency is set to what you want it. You're going to click on this Add Associate Amount. From here, you've got this drop-down list. Again, the eligible expenses are all listed in those activity sheets. So you may have multiple things to expense, like you want agency fee and giveaways, because maybe you were saying, you know, the first 10 attendees would earn a $55 or $50 Uber voucher. So you can build that into the cost of the event. Or maybe it was some like promo items, like co-branded merch, like the first 10 people are going to get a, you know, hoodie. Whatever it is, merchandise and giveaways are not a separate activity, but they are available in lots of other activities where it would be an expense item. So you will then choose each of the expenses one by one, add the amount, click the save, and you'll see that line item here. If there are more, you just keep adding them. Once you're done adding them, you will click on this I agree, click on save, and then that is it for the certificate statement part. Then you're going to upload your communication material. So in this example, I've uploaded the webinar email. I've included the presentation and a screenshot of the registration site. And so I've also gone ahead and click on the add notes for each of them. So go and, you know, just make life easier for the auditor so that there's less questions back and forth to, you know, delay your claim being approved. Once you're done that, you're going to come to this metrics section. You're going to upload that registration report or attendee report you have. And in the notes, you're just going to say how many attendees in total. That's it. So that's the best practice, is to do that. Don't make them count and look through it. Just upload the registration report and then tell them exactly how many attendees you had. And then you will submit the claim. That's it. That's all that's needed. They're really easy claims. And I have managed other co-op dollars for other vendors in the past, and Microsoft is, I don't know, was my favorite. I don't actually do the co-op submissions anymore. I have years ago, but I still, to the marketing ladies that I do still connect with, Microsoft is still the better vendor to work with when it comes to spending co-op dollars. They make it very clear, and because there's no pre-approval, everything's in the guidebook. You follow the activities, you submit the materials as requested. They tell you what you need up front, and you go ahead and do it. Okay, I've got a few more examples. So, and some of these, you know, you could probably go through them, but like social media, that's another easy one. So I've given you guys kind of what does that look like. Again, it's got to come from your company page, right? But that would be, here's an example of a post. It links to our website, so you would provide that. Make sure wherever possible on these materials, you include the URL in that screenshot. And then you're going to give a report with the metrics. And let me see, there's a question. Does this mean we can host a webinar for our customers on AI and claim it? Absolutely. Also similar to AWS, or can we request funding for proof of concept? Yes, you can request funding for, well, you can do a claim for proof of concept. And I have that in here too as an example. So we'll get to that one, because that's another good one. So direct mail is super easy. E-blasting, mailers. Again, here is your requirements, third party or certificate statement. Again, stick to the certificate statement report, the CSR. You guys are doing these activities. And then those are the eligible expenses. What does that look like? Here's a screenshot of an e-blast that we did to our partners. So made sure that I got that, the date and the subject line full shot of the e-blast as well as the call to action. Then I got a screenshot of the call to action, which is the pitch deck, and made sure that I got the URL in the pitch deck, okay? And then you just need is the metrics, email sent, delivered, that report. Trade shows is another really good one. You're going to, you know, again, CSR or third party, I recommend you use CSR. All of the materials that are required are here, all of the eligible expenses. So maybe there's some booths where you rent out, or maybe it's a trade show that you deliver from start to end. Whatever it is, those are eligible. And what does that communication material look like? So you need like a picture of somebody at your organization or a picture of your booth. So that's what this is. Here's a few of our coworkers in front of the TD SYNNEX booth. You need a copy of the invite that was sent to the customers, or that registration page, or something that shows the agenda. So we've got that here with the invite, and the web page shows the agenda. You'll want to include that copy of the presentation deck if there was a seminar spot. If there was not a seminar spot, because it's just a trade show, a tabletop, then there's got to be some kind of flyers at least. So you would upload what those flyers are. Again, they must have Microsoft content. So not all your flyers, but hopefully you've got a couple flyers in there that are Microsoft. And then you're going to do that registration list. All right. Proof of concept. So that is one, it's definitely eligible in here. Third-party invoice or certificate statement report. And you're going to need is a statement of work, okay? Those eligible expenses, printed materials, work, research, development, service, all of those are eligible. So maybe that POC is going to cost $5,000. I'm not sure, but this is what, you know, an example of an SOW, right? So you've got here a summary, you've got like a scope of the work, the time frame, and the sign off, right? That one document will do everything. If you don't have the sign off, you might need, you know, 2 documents. Maybe it's a combination. And thank you again for joining me today.